Hi everybody, thanks for watching. I have to apologize right at the beginning. I just uploaded a version of this video and I had a lot of great reactions and a lot of good comments in the comments section, but then I had a technical problem and I had to delete it. So now I'm reshooting the whole thing. I really hope that all of you were nice enough to leave comments in the old one, might come back if you see this one and repeat your comments here. But it gave me a chance to put in an album that I had forgotten about the first time, so that was good. This is a video response to Corey, Overkill Vids. Hiya Corey, and congratulations on your 400 subscribers. Seems like only yesterday I made a response to your other contest about sharing our concert-going experiences. And I like the topics you come up with, a lot of interesting subjects, so I'm happy to do this one. Well, for this contest, you wanted us to talk about albums and show albums that were having an anniversary or a milestone in 2014. And I didn't know at first if you meant, well, show us new reissues, brand new albums that artists are putting out to celebrate an older release, or whether we could just go and show old albums. So I did both. I have one album in this bunch that's a brand new release, reissue, and the other ones are all basically the older ones. Now, anybody who watches my channel with any kind of regularity knows I don't own or show a lot of music from the 2000s, and I'm going to cheat a little bit here because I wound up in the end coming up with albums from the 2000s, the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, down to the 50s. So we're going to go back here way down to the 50s. To start with, let's go 10 years back. This is a 2004 release and it's celebrating its 10th anniversary this year in 2014. This is cheating a little bit. It's the Kill Bill movie soundtrack, Kill Bill Volume 2 to be exact, which was released in 2004. I'm a big fan of Quentin Tarantino and most of his movies, and you know, I like this movie a lot. I kind of lump it along with Volume 1 as a Kill Bill epic. And what I like a lot about these movies is that he has a lot of good music in them. He knows how to pick old soundtrack music, and like he uses scores from Morricone, westerns and things, and this one has Johnny Cash doing A Satisfied Mind in it. So hard to believe that this album is actually 10 years old already, this movie too. But there it is. That's my 2004 anniversary item. Let's stick with Tarantino a minute. If I thought that was hard to believe, that that's 10 years old, this one is even harder to believe that this thing is 20 years old. 1994, Pulp Fiction, the Pulp Fiction movie soundtrack. I love this movie. It's my favorite Tarantino movie, and really quirky and still holds up great. And the music, as always, is interesting on here. I mean, you got Dusty Springfield doing Son of a Preacher Man. You got Jungle Boogie by Kool and the Gang. Let's Stay Together by Al Green. And then you got like Comanche on here. And one of my favorites, a redo of the old song by Neil Diamond, Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon. This one done by Urge Overkill, which I really think is fantastic. So, hard to believe that Pulp Fiction is 20 years old, but happy anniversary. Okay, the next one is an album that I really like. This is 25 years old. We're going now backwards in time to 1989. Here's an album that was released 25 years ago. Unfortunately, I used to have this album on CD, and I got rid of the CD in anticipation of getting a vinyl. And I haven't gotten the vinyl yet, upgrade, so I've seen it out in the wild once, and I passed on it thinking it wasn't going anywhere, and I never really got a chance to see it again. But I'll get it. And let me swing over this way for it. It's this album. It's Tom Petty, Full Moon Fever from 1989, 25 years old. Great album, consistent. It's got stuff on here like Free Fallin', you know, Running Down a Dream, You're So Bad, I Won't Back Down, Facing a Crowd. Great album, and I'm sorry I had to show the screen. I'm just going to come around here again to where I was. Yeah, but I got to get that one. Great album, 25 years old, Full Moon Fever. Now let's go back even further, 30 years. These are 30-year-old albums. I have two. And this is where I get to show the one I said was reissued just yesterday for Record Store Day. I didn't get it. I wasn't able to get down there. My nephew was nice enough to pick this up on his trip for Record Store Day. It's Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, 1984 album, Glorious Results of a Misspent Youth. And I don't know if a lot of people know or not, but the title of this album comes from a Honeymooners episode where Jackie Gleason, as Ralph Cramden, tells Norton while they're playing a pool in a pool hall, Now just watch and I'll show you the glorious results of a misspent youth. So that's where the title came from, Joan said. And this is a great rockin' album. I mean, it was the third by the Blackhearts, really. I Love Rock and Roll we had, then we had Album. And I remember getting this one in late 1984, September. I tell you, I used to haunt my record stores. When is the new Joan Jett album coming in, you know? Because back then you didn't have the internet, so you had to just look in rock magazines and giveaway newspapers, and they would tell you when certain albums are coming out and whatever. And I used to keep on calling the guy, is it in? Is it in? Finally, it came in and I got it. You know, I mean, there weren't many artists back then that I would wait for their new releases, except for the solo Beatles, you know. But Joan Jett was somebody I kept getting the new albums on the day of release. And this one from Record Store Day, this reissue, was nice because it's on... The vinyl doesn't really look nice here, I don't think, but in person it looks a lot better. This doesn't do it justice. It's a very bright, purplish, pinkish kind of transparent vinyl, and it's got a picture on here from Joan, looking like, I think that's a little earlier. It looks like Joan from 82 or 3, but whatever. So anyway, I got that. That's a Record Store Day release, and it celebrates 30 years. Again, you're going to hear me saying this a lot. I cannot believe that these albums are this old. They get older and older as we go. It seems like only yesterday I remember bringing this home and playing it on my Techniques turntable. Anyway, also from 1984, there's this great album. I show this album a lot. Every time we have a subject that seems this album fits a favorite of some kind. 1984, 40 years old, this album. Cyndi Lauper, She's So Unusual. Great album, another consistent album you can listen to just about all the way through. It's got songs like Girls Just Want to Have Fun, All Through the Night, Time After Time, She Bob, Money Changes Everything. Great album, Cyndi Lauper. 30 years old, this album. Okay, let's go back to 1979, okay? Now we're 35 years into the time machine. These are albums that are celebrating a 35-year anniversary. Start with Led Zeppelin, In Through the Outdoor, which, you know, it's funny. A lot of Zeppelin fans will disagree, but this is maybe my favorite Zeppelin album. And not just because, really, it reminds me of being in high school at the time, and I was in driver's ed. You know, it seemed like, you know, the song All My Love seemed to come on the radio all the time when I was in the car taking driver's ed. And that's what that song reminds me of. So I have a lot of good memories of this album. Okay, also in 1979, had a lot of great new wave stuff that came out. Which reminds me, I'm not going to make this video over again, but well, let me show this first. Candio by the Cars, which has to be one of the great new wave albums. It's got Let's Go on it, It's All I Can Do, Candio, and also one of my favorites, Got a Lot on My Head, which I really like this album. Great sound, the Cars. Always love this stuff. Okay, this is an album also that I show a lot. 1979, Eat to the Beat. 35 years old. My favorite Blondie album of all the Blondie albums, and another consistent album, great all the way through. I don't have a vinyl copy of this yet because I'd like to wait for the pristine, you know, copy that I can find. I don't just take anything on certain albums, you know, because I know an album like this is going to turn up. So, okay, back to Tom Petty. It's still in 1979. Great album. 1979 was such a great year for music. Damn the Torpedoes, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And we're talking about songs like Refugee, Here Comes My Girl, Even the Losers, right? Don't Do Me Like That. Great album. Looking back, 35 years anniversary. Now, we can't talk about 1979 without showing this album, right? And you know what it is. Pink Floyd, The Wall. And, you know, I've never played this album all the way through. I know the popular songs off it, they're great. I think I'm going to be listening to this album sometime in preparation for my First Time Spins series that I do. So that's a big album, another senior year of high school classic. Here's an album that I forgot the first time I uploaded this video, and so in that regard, I'm glad I was forced to make it over. It's Bob Dylan, 1979 album, Slow Train Coming. Now, why am I happy to put this in here? I don't know how I forgot it, because this was my real introduction to Bob Dylan. This is the first album I really liked by Dylan, and after this I went back and got all his 60s stuff and started appreciating that classic material. But again, a lot of it has to do with being the right age at the right time, an album that speaks to you. So, that takes care of 1979. Let's go back in the time machine. Let's go back 40 years now. We're going back to 1974. Now, 1974, I could tell you a lot of songs that I love, a lot of singles. But when it came time to trying to find albums, I couldn't think of really anything really that was standing out. And then I found two that are kind of cheating a little bit, because they came out at the end of 73, really. But here's what I mean. First thing is this one, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road by Elton John. Classic album, great album. It came out in late 73, but all through 1974, 40 years ago, this was all over the place. I mean, you couldn't go anywhere. Elton John was everywhere. He was the man in the 70s, early or mid-70s. It's all about Elton John. And also the next one, which I'm going to throw in here, it's Paul McCartney and Wings, Band on the Run. This came out in December of 73, so really it was popular in 74. Again, it's stretching it a little bit just to get a 74 album in here. Great stuff on here. Band on the Run, the title song, Jet, Let Me Roll It, 1985, Helen Wheels. Helen Wheels being on the American version. Paul didn't want it on the album, really, but it's on the American version. Yeah. So, anyway, Paul McCartney and Wings. Wow, 40 years old. 41 if you figure 73. Now let's go back further, right, to 1969. 1969, 45-year anniversary of Zeppelin II. Okay, I have two copies of Zeppelin II. This one's an original copy, but I also had this one, which is much better condition, I think, but it's a Columbia House under license, Columbia House pressing. So I got, right now, two copies of Led Zeppelin II. And, of course, for 1969, I'm going to quickly go through Abbey Road, the last real Beatles album that they recorded, and great album, classic. What can I say about it? A lot's been said, but I had to show it. And now we go back further to 1964, 50 years. Now, of course, I'm going to show some Beatle albums really quick. I like a lot of stuff from 64. Bob Dylan had Another Side of Bob Dylan. You got a lot of British invasion acts that I like. I mean, you got the Rolling Stones, the Animals, DC5, a lot of stuff that I like. But I'm going to stick with, really quick, with three Beatles albums. 50 years old this year, the United States Meet the Beatles. And 50 years this year, the Beatles' second album, my favorite album of all time, right here. Beatles' second album, and also in June, this album is going to be having its 50-year anniversary. A Hard Day's Night, the U.S. soundtrack. It's 50 years ago for those. Okay, now we're going to go back even further. Going to go to 1959, so we're talking about 55 years ago. This is really kind of a sad part. 1959, 55 years ago, February 3rd, that just passed, we lost Buddy Holly, we lost Ritchie Valens, and we lost the Big Bopper. Ritchie Valens here, Buddy Holly here. There's two albums by them. A real waste of talent, real sad loss. They died way too young and they had a lot to offer. But I want to just pay tribute. This is pushing it a little bit because, I mean, technically a lot of these songs are 1958 or 57. But I wanted to honor 1959, take a moment. So you're talking about 55 years ago, we lost Buddy Holly and Ritchie Valens. So, okay. Now, I go back rock and roll wise to 1954, so we're going to make it 60 years. 60 years, okay. 1954, Elvis Presley recorded That's Alright Mama. 1954. That and this one, Bill Haley doing Rock Around the Clock. Bill Haley and his Comets. So, Rock Around the Clock and That's Alright Mama, and the Sun records that came along with that too, you know, 55 and so on, really considered the birth of rock and roll. 1954. 60 years ago. 60th anniversary. The reason why a lot of us are here making videos, the reason why a lot of us who love rock and roll, that is, we can't forget the origins. Now, I know the origins come from old blues music and stuff, and rock and roll is just blues and all that kind of thing. But I'm talking about, you know, the accepted year is probably 1954, and that's where my tastes go, really. My favorite music is from that time. 1954 to 1984. I go a little bit after that into the 80s, but I kind of like to keep it within that convenient 30-year period. I personally think the best year ever for popular music was 1954 and 1984. Well, anyway, that's it. I hope you don't mind, some of you, that I had to make this twice. And congratulations again, Corey, and thanks everybody for watching. And peace and love.